All right, it's the story everyone is talking about around the world today. Former Prince Andrew arrested. Rob Shuter, couldn't have anyone better here to talk to us about this. I mean, what do we know about what's happened so far when it comes to this arrest?
It's explosive. It's absolutely explosive. So as well as being a gossip columnist, I used to work for the British royal family, so I know this institution really, really well. Nobody saw this coming. I was in Britain last week for my mum's birthday. The only thing people were talking about was this. However, not one person thought it would get to the point where he was arrested. He's ostracised. He's pushed out of the family. Nobody thought at 8 a.m. this morning he would get a knock on his door and it would be the police, the Thames police, arresting him and taking him away. It's absolutely shocking. This is a former crown prince. This is Queen Elizabeth's favourite son, now in jail.
Nothing like it in modern history or certainly throughout the course of history when it comes to the royal family.
Yeah, I don't know a prince of England that's ever been arrested. There's been wars, there's been abdications, there's been deaths. There was Princess Diana's death, which rocked the nation. I would argue, and I think history is going to prove me right here, this is the biggest story ever. This is the biggest crisis that the royal family has ever had to go through.
And the nature of the allegations, of course, link back to the Epstein files.
Yeah.
But what the
was the spare. So the Queen can...
when he was a trade advisor, what do we know about the allegations?
Really important point. So when you say Epstein, the first thing you think of is sex, underage girls, some of the horrific reporting details that we've heard of. This is not that. They have not got him on that. In fact, he settled a lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre for about £12 million. So what this is about is in the early 2000s, Andrew didn't have a job. He had nothing to do. He really was the spare. So Harry talks about being the spare a lot. Andrew was the spare. So the Queen convinced the Foreign Office to give him a job as a trade envoy. This is not a real job. You don't need many qualifications to do it. You swan around the world on a private plane. You have great dinners. You meet with ambassadors.
Right.
While he was doing that, now allegedly, he got secrets. So he had access to secrets that he wouldn't have had if he hadn't worked for the Foreign Office. Now it's been alleged that he gave those secrets to Jeffrey Epstein.
And those are potentially serious crimes.
Life in prison crimes. This is not a slap on the wrist. Other people have been charged with this throughout history. They haven't had that longer sentences. I looked it up and it's a couple of years. One person got about 6 months. But the depth of the crimes here and the public outrage, this is really serious. He could spend the rest of his life in jail.
And what's the reaction been from Buckingham Palace? We know the king put out a statement, but as you said, he may not have known about it coming.
I was told he didn't, so I hit the phones and spoke to all my royal sources, many of which are inside the palace. Nobody knew. And that's how the police work. The more people you tell, the more chance it will leak out. And Andrew was thought of as a flight risk. He has a lot of money, he has a lot of power. He's already made it clear that the Middle East is somewhere that he is thinking of going. Let's not forget, a former disgraced king of Spain is now living in the Middle East. Fergie, his ex-wife, was in the Middle East just a few weeks ago. So they were frightened of a flight risk here. So nobody knew. And while they arrested him at his new home, they also searched about 3 other homes that he has been associated with.
What could they be looking for?
Photographs, emails. Like, this is what's going to bring him down, if anything does. It's those documents, it's the phone records, it's the emails. If they can prove that he forwarded top secret information, trade information that he got because he worked for the Foreign Office, then that's really bad. Let me point out too, though, nobody in the Foreign Office wanted Andrew to have this job. He had it for about a decade. There was lots of complaints.
It's a lot of time.
A lot of time. He went around the world. He had a lot of meetings with some really shady people, with dictators, with people, leaders of countries that he normally, a Prince of England, would not be meeting with. And in exchange, we've seen now through the emails with Jeffrey Epstein, Jeffrey had favours. He wanted Andrew to give people tours of Buckingham Palace. A lot of people are saying Epstein ran Andrew.
And there are so many high-profile people who've been featured or linked, I should say, to the Epstein files themselves. You know, just because your name is in there doesn't mean you've necessarily done any criminal wrongdoing, but certainly we've seen even people like Naomi Campbell, who has been mentioned as a part of it, and you sort of have some insight in that as well, and how it connects to the former prince. Yeah,
I used to work for Naomi Campbell. I was Naomi's publicist, and I actually met Jeffrey Epstein with Naomi. He was at a Victoria's Secret fashion show, and I saw him there, and this is the real sick thing, and this explains why he got away with it for so long. He was charming. He was funny, he had a big smile, he was a handsome guy, he had a lot of wealth. And so I think that helped, as well as his power and his influence, that's why he got away with it. But a lot of names in there, Whoopi Goldberg's name's in there. Right. She was looking for a private plane. The mistake we make with Epstein is everybody thinks it's about sex. Everybody thinks it's about underage girls. That's part of it. Right. It's also about money. It's about power. He had a private plane. Even very rich celebrities, many of which I know, don't have access to a private plane. So if you want a free plane to go wherever, a charity event or on vacation, you'd call up Epstein. And so he was in a lot of people's worlds. He had a way of figuring out how to manipulate you. He knew that Andrew was frustrated. He was the second son. He was never going to be the king. He was always in his mom's shadow. And Epstein made him feel like a king. And
what do we know about what Prince William and Princess Kate, are they reacting? Have they put anything out? What are we expecting?
As of the moment, no, but I think they will throughout the day. My reporting has been clear about this for the last 6 months. Charles was slow to react. His mother, Queen Elizabeth, really didn't do anything. She didn't want to hear anything. And people in the Foreign Office complained about Andrew and what he was doing. She didn't want to hear it. Charles is his brother. They're not particularly close, but they're part of that club, this royal club that you have to be born into. Anne, his sister, Charles's sister too, a great royal, really respected. She's been slow too. The one that has been the driving force here is William. William wants this mess.
The future of the monarch.
And he wants it tidied up before he becomes king. He doesn't want what his grandmother did, which was to kick the can down the road. He wants his dad to clean up this mess so that when he starts his reign, he doesn't have to deal with it.
Just sort of wrapping up for us, Rob, I know you've been tracking so much of this, but isn't it interesting that we've seen in Europe that people who've been connected to the Epstein files have had faced more serious consequences when it comes to some of these things that have come out. Former Prince Andrew, of course, maybe the most high profile of anyone. But here in the States, it hasn't necessarily, even if people have a similar amount of exposure, it hasn't resulted in this same type of things. Do you think this tips the scales a little bit?
This is massive, what's happened today. It makes America, it makes Americans. I'm an American now. We have to face this, and it's shocking to me that a former Prince of England is arrested and not one single arrest has happened here in America. We all know who they are talking about, and we know this goes to the very top of government here in America. And I think people are really scared about this, but I think now we've got to acknowledge it. And a lot of people today in Washington are going to be sweating.
Where can we find any more?
I have a daily podcast on iHeartRadio, Naughty But Nice, and I have a Substack, robshooter.substack.com.
All right, Rob Shooter, thank you very much. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side.